Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. Now, first off, you are going to see how not to fire your machine guns. But yes, I am going to be covering Zhukovsky's I-153 Chaika. Now, you're going to notice a few things right now. First off, I'm at an altitude in excess of 4,000 meters above the ground. And yes, I'm in a biplane. And also, I have terrible accuracy with this plane right now, so do not adopt that firing technique unless you're crazy inaccurate like myself in that situation. But fortunately, this kind of shows off a few features of this aircraft. One, it has a very high rate of fire, lots of ammunition, also very weak. Fortunately, I was at a high altitude, which allowed me to float down to my airfield. But that high altitude is indicative of this plane's climb rate. It has a very, very high climb rate. Very good climb rate. So basically, if you're just getting into historical battles, and that's what I'm kind of going to be talking about here, and not necessarily cover Zhukovsky's Chaika, because I think almost every War Thunder player is rather familiar with this aircraft. And furthermore, if you're a fan of my channel, you've already seen me cover the I-153P Premium Chaika with the 20mm cannons, as well as historical battle gameplay with the Chaika. And if you haven't, you can find links in the video description below. But if you're just getting started with historical battles and you're a Russian pilot, or you are at a low tier, and you kind of want to get the hang of things, because it is a lot different from arcade. And it's very rewarding once you spend the time and actually get decent. You know, you gotta pay your dues. You gotta get your butt kicked by a lot of people who are a little more, a little more skilled than you, basically because of the experience. They've done some things. I cannot tell you how many times I derped when I first started playing historical battles. But the Chaika is a good aircraft to start with, and when you perform well, you get a pretty good, return in terms of silver lions. And that's the big thing right now with the economy, is what are the best planes to kind of grind with? Well, at tier 1, the Zhukovsky's Chaika is arguably the best choice. There's not really any other tier 1 aircraft that could really compete, just because the Chaika is such a good aircraft overall. You have 4 7.62mm machine guns with 2,600 rounds, or 650 rounds per gun. So you have a decent amount of ammunition. And right there with that laser-looking stream of tracers, when you fire armor-piercing incendiary tracers, that is a pretty good ammunition to use, as it packs a lot of punch. And when you're first starting in historical battles, you don't have your lead indicator, which you have become so reliant on in arcade mode. Now you actually have to be good at aiming, and the incendiary tracers allow you to kind of figure out where you're shooting given your angle. And then the armor piercing characteristics of it allow you to have pretty good put down power rather. And then the incendiary characteristics of the shells allow you to light planes on fire when they're kind of heavier. So overall, it's the best ammunition to use. But right now you can see me also at a very high altitude relative to biplanes and most other aircraft. And if you're playing as a fighter, everyone will usually say, you want to climb at the beginning, and people can be kind of rough around the edges if you're not helping the team out and you are humping the ground or mowing the lawn. Basically, if you're a fighter, you want to go for altitude. Now, this is a good aircraft to kind of practice that, learn that. You have a very easygoing rate of climb, and that will allow you to get to higher altitudes and outclimb the opposition. So even if you're not the best pilot, this is a decent plane at lower tiers to kind of build the fundamentals that you're going to want to be using as a fighter pilot in historical battles. Now we're going to see right here what I prefer to do when doing heads up. Most cases, I prefer to fire right when I see them firing. I either do a roll, or I kind of dip down And I like to initiate that before the enemy fighter and then turn before the enemy fighter, which will allow me, assuming I survive the head-on pass, which I had played conservatively, and then drop on their 6. And here you can see a Buffalo trying to compete in an area that the Chaika will easily surpass it, and that is generally rate of climb. And my early maneuver allowed me to get on his tail, and my ammunition allowed me to put him in the ground. So you can see how, just starting out, no matter your tier or your nation of choice, in historical battles, this is a pretty good aircraft to go with. Overall impression, you are familiar with this aircraft. And if you want the best tier 1 grinder, this is it. I'm Baron, thanks for watching. And next, I will be covering American premium aircrafts. And I will start with the Ki-61, level 4. And then I will move on to the experimental aircraft. So stay posted for that. It's used pretty much to allow me not to overshoot him. And then I will turn away and back down and get back on his 6.